Greetings, Commanders. My name is Soviet Pride. I will be your personal tutor for this particular series aimed at complete novices to the game who have no idea what they are doing, and hopefully by the end of this series you have a solid grounding in how to play this game. This is going to be part 2 of the series, and this series will cover the basics of the economy. There will be an episode later on that covers more advanced points of the economy that are important, but right now they are not necessary for you to understand in order to begin to play the game. The problem with Subcom is that it is difficult. No one will pretend that it is easy. Unless you're Blackheart, but that will be an episode in itself. If there is one, later on, whatever. Basically, the point is, you are going to be entering the game, and if you do not have any idea how to go on, it is not explained to you. This game is flow-based, which means it will let you push buttons. These buttons may not even be good for you. They may be detrimental to your health, but the point is the game will not tell you. The game will happily sit back, get a bag of popcorn, and watch as you drag your economy kicking and screaming into the dirt, and it will not say, maybe you want to turn this off, maybe you shouldn't have pressed that, maybe you're a complete idiot. Actually, scrap the last point, it'll tell you because you're going to end up exploding, but moving swiftly on. Subcom is like any other RTS game that's worth its salt to be called as such, and that is the most important aspect of the game is your economy. As Cicero said, the sinews of war is infinite money. If you do not have the resources to build units, you will fall flat on your face. If you do not have the resources at all to match your opponent, if you don't even know what resources you're meant to get are, you will fall flat on your face. With this in mind, by the end of this tutorial you should at least understand the basics of the economic system in Subcom with some vague ideas of how to utilize them correctly. Is that AI really dropping me? What? Okay, I just got distracted, but... give me 1 minute. Right. Please forgive my minor diversion. In this regard, instead of setting you free on the wonderful internet, I have divided the economy tutorial into 2 basic parts, which is the 2 resources you see in your top left. The top one, the green one, is mass, the bottom one is power. Basically, you require both of these resources to build things, but in addition, energy is required in the background to make sure all of your buildings run. Structures like radar and structures like shields, which we will cover later, require energy to run at all times. Failure to provide energy will result in the following. Your radar will shut off, your shields will hopefully blink, but in this case for a bizarre reason it says that it's okay to remain functional, but anyway. As you can see, if you have no power, it'll tell you. Your radar will blink and you will have absolutely no contacts. In contrast, as soon as you have power and everything is fine and running, your radar will start functioning again. See if you have all your lovely contacts, your factories will start working again, and the world will continue to turn. If you don't, then you will enter what is called a stall, but that is a concept that I will discuss later. First of all, the most important resource for you to be aware of is the concept of mass. Mass in most games will be the limiting factor. And there are 3 principal methods of gaining mass. These are mexes, of which it simply stands for mass extractor, and these you build on the same concurrent green spots. There are only green spots for mass extractors, you cannot build mass extractors anywhere else. You build a mass extractor upon one of these green spots and it will generate you mass over time. This should be easy enough to understand. And third are related in a way. The second one sort of mass you need to be aware of, but at the same point isn't that important for you right now, is the concept of map reclaim. If you press Ctrl and Shift on certain maps, it will show you the sources of big reclaim, such as this rock. As soon as you get any sort of construction unit, be it an engineer or your commander, you can simply mouse over it, reclaim it, and you get this symbol that you see, which basically says this is reclaimable. You click it, and it will reclaim it and put it into your coffers. There is a caveat to this, however, which is the rest of these rocks provide mass as well, but they are not big enough in value to be considered, well, they do not register on this command. But nonetheless, since there are often many of them, they do add up, and as such you may wish to reclaim them as well. The caveat, of course, is if your mass bar is full, then there is no point in reclaiming rocks, because you're just going to end up wasting mass. The third is the concept of unit reclaim. As we see here, and as you may know, as I will show you now, every unit in the game costs mass. Right? It costs mass to build. When these units die, they will leave wreckage, such as these tanks here that have been lovely provided by a very, very fun unit called a Monkey Lord, which we shall cover later on in the game, and inevitably one of the reasons you probably want to play the game, which are these huge hulking robots which just blow each other to smithereens. But anyway, using the same concept of using Control and Shift, you can highlight where these wrecks are. Whilst in the early game, and for beginners, this might not be an important source of mass for you, it is still something that you should be aware of, because these can often turn the tide of games. And it's the same content, and it's an important source of mass, because once everything has dried up, and you need to seek an advantage over your opponent, these add up quite significantly. Like, as soon as you have 10 tanks worth of mass, that you will need it for, you can use it for upgrades, for more units, and concepts such as upgrading I will cover in the next episode, or the episode after that, which will be covered in the episode of teching. I haven't actually decided where I'm going to go with this yet. But anyway, moving swiftly on. Second resource you have, as I explained earlier, is energy. This is created by structures. For your purposes, we shall stick to structures. There are other ways of generating power, which I shall briefly touch on after I have covered this. In the game that you need to know, there are three methods of generating power. The first is these power generators. They come in three different tiers, but I shall cover their caveats and when to build them in the relevant video simply titled Teching. For now, you will need to know is that you gain power by building generation structures. You have the hydrocarbon to begin with, and you have your power generator, which is this structure here. They are different for different races, in the fact that the structures look different, but otherwise they all generate the same amount. If you are having difficulty, you can simply mouse over, and it will tell you what each structure is and what it does. When you're starting off, it is not a bad idea to enter a game by yourself and then establish yourself and be familiar with what each of these structures do, because when you begin it can be overwhelming, but after a while it will become second nature to you. You gain power by building power generation structures. They sit in the background, they happily provide things, and you don't need to pay them any more attention. In that regard, they are the same as mexes. Second source of power is simply trees. These trees here, they are all reclaimable. They will provide you with a little bit of mass, but mainly provide you with power. In your career, you probably don't need to reclaim trees, because most of your power you will get from generators, and you will not be in a situation where you will be desperate for them, but it is worth bearing in mind. The third and probably most advanced thing I'll cover in this particular tutorial is the concept of an upgrade on your commander called RAS. For your purposes, I will not explain what this is for the moment, besides it is an important upgrade in team games. If by the end of this you do enter team games, which I imagine many of you will, and you see this upgrade being built, you should instead ask the experienced player on your team, preferably of 1,000 or above, whether to build this upgrade or not, and they will give you guidance on it. And in fact, in most of these things, if you enter a game, so long as you have a basic understanding of what is going on, people will help you. But regardless, this should be the end of this basic economic tutorial. In this tutorial we have covered what mass is, what energy is, what they are used for, the main principles of how to get these resources, and the consequences of not having it. In fact, I shall briefly cover the concept of flow economy. As you see here, right now, this game does not require you to have X amount of resources in order to build something. It will simply drain your economy at a fixed rate. This rate is shown here. This is the rate per second that you have, and this is what happens when you run out of a particular resource, in this case mass. So long as you have the necessary resources, every building will function perfectly normal. However, as soon as you run out of resources, you enter what is simply called a stall. This is what happens when you, as I said, you run out of a resource. What actually happens is everything slows down in proportion to how badly you are stalling. So as you see, everything is now becoming much, much slower. Whereas in concept, if I were to turn off some of these buildings which were draining resources, these would suddenly go faster because there's more resources available for them again. The concept of build power and other resources I shall cover in another tutorial, most likely advanced economy. For now, I believe that should be a solid grounding for you to understand the basics of the economy in Supreme Commander. My name is Soviet, and I hope you have found this tutorial useful. Good luck, and have fun.